What's going on? How are we today? Okay, so we're live. Wow, this is cool. So yeah, welcome back to the podcast, but obviously we're live, so chat with us, I guess. But yeah, Mike, how are you going today?
Boba Fett finale. Excited to talk about how I wrapped up, things I liked, things I didn't like. But yeah, we are at the end. We've been covering this entire series, this entire season. So it kind of feels good to be at the end and look at things a bit differently. So yeah, I'm ready to talk all Boba Fett today.
Definitely keen to dive in. But before we do, our lovely guest, Parks, returning. How have you been, and how are you enjoying Boba Fett?
It's great to be back on. Thank you for having me, guys. It's been a bumpy ride getting to the end of Boba Fett here, but I think I was pretty satisfied with the finale, and if nothing else, there's a lot to discuss looking back on the series from just this episode. So thank you so much for having me on again, guys. You were a lot of fun to talk with last time, so I'm ready to go.
Yeah, no, it was so much. We got so many compliments about having you on and being like, yeah,
Really?
get that guy back on. Yeah, heck yeah, we did.
Yeah.
It dropped that knowledge and
Feels good.
we talked about. We had a conversation. I don't know if y'all remember, but Parks joined us for the episode where we talked about the Mos Espa, Vespas. So we broke that down in an hour and 30 minutes, I believe. So we talked at length about the episode. So yeah, we made a kind of a what the F episode into a really interesting convo. So, or at least Parks did a stellar job. So no, I'm excited to now talk about the real stuff, Cad Bane, all that stuff. So yeah, we're excited to have you back.
Yeah, thank you very much.
For real,
I'll don't worry. I'll do for this show what some of the writers could not. No, I'm just kidding.
Please do.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, so good to have you here. But yeah, wow. So obviously the finale came out last night. A lot of mixed opinions. I've seen some people saying this is the best 58 minutes of Star Wars I've ever seen. Some people saying 0 out of 10. But Parks, let's start with you. What were your overall thoughts on this finale?
Overall thoughts on the finale. It was a lot of fun, and I think if there's any one word that best describes this episode, and most people will walk away from the episode using to describe it, it is the word fun. I got vibes of Return of the Jedi, like the Battle of Endor. I got vibes of the Rebels finale, especially in the idea of like all of these sort of different members of a community sort of coming together. It wasn't perfect, and it did deliver ultimately on a lot of things I was hoping to see from throughout the series, but the problems it does have more to do with the journey leading up to this point than it does like anything that this episode in particular did or didn't do. I think the show set up a lot of stuff early on that, I just remember the discussion I had with you guys about stuff like the Hutts and like who's really running the Pikes and this and that. And it takes a bit of acceptance once it's over to realize like, okay, maybe that's not how things were ever supposed to go. And maybe our imagination got the better of us. But ultimately, I feel like there may be some missed opportunities along the way with the story. And you feel that in some regards with the finale. At the same time, though, if there's anything that it should have been, it was exactly what it was, which was fun. I think there's a great quote from Dave Filoni in one of the like Disney galleries for The Mandalorian, where he says, Star Wars should ultimately leave you with a good feeling. If it leaves you with anything, it's that good feeling. And that's most certainly the case here. Could have done a little bit more than that, perhaps, but I think I had a good feeling walking away from it. And I was watching with my friend when it dropped, and we laughed at a lot of stuff and had a lot of fun in different areas. And there was some goofy stuff here and there, but I love the goofy stuff. So it was good.
Yeah, for sure. Mike,
Um,
what did
um,
you think?
I think this episode was really a reflection of the entire series, and that was like downright sloppy. Just because there were so many like inconsistencies, and some things were very much rushed that you really wanted to like just hone in on and be like, listen, if we had this whole scene of Cad Bane, the mayor, just talking for another 10 minutes, Godfather level, God tier, right? We could have had like something really cool with that. However, then we just spent like long sequences out in the desert fighting or in the town fighting, just random firefights. And yeah, some of it just felt very chaotic. But overall, I thought it was a really solid, not only finale, but I thought it was just a really solid episode where I was like, dang, this is going to hit hard next week when there's not some sort of continuation right away. Um, yeah, there it was really frustrating watching this and being like, "Man, love this," but some of these moments, at least the good I would say like the first maybe 30 minutes could have been like the been part of like the final moments of the penultimate episode. You just had all that really cool setup where it's like, man, I wish someone else was there to like really, maybe that someone that wasn't on board with or that didn't act like yes men to John Favreau or Dave Filoni and or Robert Rodriguez
Yeah.
and they were like, hey, let's do this. Let's construct. You guys have great ideas here. Let's just construct things a bit differently and let's make it flow better. Just so we get like that finale packed punch. So, yeah, there was some things in here that I just had fun with. As Parkers was saying, there was my whole reaction after watching this was like, man, that was like an hour of like fun. Like at the beginning, I was getting thrilled, and then it just laid down to like fun seeing the Rancor like go around, tear stuff up. Like, yeah, that was just fun, and you got some good Star Wars comedic moments. And I love how different this finale felt to what we've gotten a lot in Star Wars, where it's like, oh, it's nothing but thriller the entire ride through. This was more of like it like made use of things that they kind of set up. Could have used a bit more setup, but overall, I think it was fine. It was cool. So there's my take. Ari, I think you have a different opinion, but I want to hear what your thought on the finale is. So
Yeah, look, I do agree with a lot of what you guys are saying. Like, I don't know, like I think I just rewatched the episode then, and it was around the 28-minute mark. Pretty much everything before then, I was enjoying, to be honest. I didn't think it was anything crazy. I was sort of just like, yeah, this is cool. I'm digging this. The Cad Bane, the initial standoff, loved that. Din sort of showing a lot of honor with Boba, loved that. Um, Generally, it was just it was just good fun. And then I don't know, man, those action sequences that felt like a lot to sit through, and it just went on and on and on and on. And after a while, I was honestly just bored. I like parts of it, like a lot of good little one-liners, a lot of good comedy. I admit, yeah. The Rancor visually looked great, I will say, and that was a cool part of the action. But just something about a bunch of farmers and what do you call them, mod people, just brainlessly shooting at that shield for about 10 minutes just did not sit well with me, because I'm like,
Fair.
and also with the pikes, it just felt like a bunch of just running around, standing in the open, just shooting at this shield. And I'm like, guys, come on. Like, it didn't feel like, oh, yeah, we're beating the big bad villains, the pikes. It just felt like we're just shooting at this shield until it budges for about 10 minutes. So that overruled a lot of the good stuff, because I was just like, come on. Like, in all fairness, the episode did go for like an hour. So there was that, but and so like there was almost time to just shoot at a shield for 10 minutes. But yeah, also really frustrated me the fact that a Boba Fett series sorry, I am coughing here. A Boba Fett series ended with a Grogu funny moment. I
Mm,
don't know. I know there was the post-credit scene, but I'm like, this is Boba Fett's show. You've
yeah.
already taken so much away.
Yeah.
And now, like, literally all they had to do was switch those scenes. Like, I'm fine with them giving like a send off to Din and setting up season 3 if that's what they really have to do. But man, I don't know. I just didn't sit well with me that the final like oomph before we hit the credits is Grogu being like, yay, the ship's moving fast. I don't know. Like, we'll get into a lot of it, but overall, it just left me feeling a bit like, oh, I don't know. Like I just didn't. I said to Mike before we watched it, I said I want this episode to make me feel something, like an emotional. And
please
I
make me
feel
feel
like
something.
exactly. I feel like, to be fair, I did get a little I did get goosebumps when Bane is almost taunting Boba about like the Tuscans. I thought that was really good, but yeah, but outside of that, I just and also of course the Cad Bane thing. That decision is sitting really poorly with me, just because I feel like they didn't like. Part of me liked it in the sense of like, yeah, this is good for Boba's arc. It's a good completion. But the other part of me is like, I feel like Cad Bane just came to this show like 3 or 4 episodes late. Like there was such a good story to tell there,
Right.
and they really only touched the surface. Like they could have done so much more with that, and then they just killed him. And I couldn't help but be disappointed. And if they do bring him back, I'm going to be even more disappointed because people have got to stop coming back from the dead. Like just Cobb Vanth just throw him in the back. They're like, I'm happy he's alive, but
yeah,
come on now. I don't know, but yeah, I have a complicated relationship with this episode and this series. To be honest, this episode has tainted my feelings toward this whole series in general. To be honest, but we'll talk about that more to come. I want to talk about the beginning. Let's go through it like we always do. Mos Espa is now in a war zone. I find it funny how every episode ended with like, oh, we're going to war, and then this episode starts with Boba saying, we're at war. It's like
I giggled when he said that. It was, and I sort of hated that I did. You know, that was the low point of the episode for me. Really, was that, but it only went up from there, which was great. But yeah.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like, I don't know. Anyway, and also, Mike, can we talk about this? Because when we were watching, we both looked at each other and was like, what? When what was it? That Din and Boba are talking, and Boba's like, did you get the people from Mos Espa? And then he's like, Freetown. I was like, what is this whole Freetown thing? I don't understand it. Was there meant to be some payoff? Like, Parks, you're probably going to drop a big old wisdom bomb on me and tell me about it. But what was your take on this whole Freetown stuff? I don't understand.
I wish I had a deeper read on it. And maybe if I sat here and thought about it, I could, you know, I mean, maybe there is like a very blatant symbolism to the people of Freetown sort of coming in towards the middle, not just on behalf of themselves, but on behalf of Tatooine. You know, like they're like sort of, maybe like you could view them as sort of the seed of what could take place over the rest of Tatooine, like a community that actually sticks together. But beyond that, I perceived it as sort of like a running gag, you know, to be like, actually it's Freetown. That wasn't that I don't know, was amusing insofar as, like you said, why do they keep bringing this up? But
well, I just thought there'd be some sort of payoff where they're like, oh, like, we are Freetown and we're going to free the town, or I don't know. It's just something. I don't even know. But
it maybe was one more joke away from like fully like, you know, like landing the gag and being like, all right, I think it's funny now, but I don't know. It didn't quite get there.
Listen, in the previous episode, I bashed some of the dialogue just because it came off. It was janky dialogue where it just felt very abrupt and it just did. I was like, what is up with Dave Filoni and writing live action dialogue? It just didn't fit. So with that whole Freetown thing, that Mando, that they have the interaction in that one cantina, it was just so jarring. And same here again. Ari and I watched the episode and we were on FaceTime together. We both looked at each other like, why do they keep doing that? Like they just completely throw off the flow of the scene and just like it's Freetown. It's Freetown. For what? It's not for me. I didn't. Maybe there's someone out there that found it funny, but I just got irritated. I'm like, listen. We have an hour. We don't got jokes to play. We have an hour to make up for so many lost time. So it's like let's get on with the road.
Exactly. I will say when Boba started talking, I was like, thank God he says something in the episode. Thank God.
Yes.
Because I was like, I feel like there's a chance here we're going to go another full episode without him saying anything. So when he finally did, I was like, man, yes, he's back.
In his finale, that would have been rough.
In his finale.
Yeah. It just would have been an hour of Grogu funny moments.
Right.
But anyway, so the mayor is actually hiding with the Pikes. We see Cad Bane has a little interaction. We find out that, of course, as we said, the Tuskens were not killed by the speed bikers. It was the Pikes. It wasn't actually Cad Bane, which we had talked about, but I don't know. Parks, what's your take on that?
As you know, I was trying to sort of tune into some of your guys' episodes over the last few weeks, and I think something you said last week that I was like, oh, that would be a great idea, was like have Cad Bane be the one that killed the Tuskens on behalf of the Pikes.
Yeah,
we got halfway there. We got the Pikes were behind it. I felt a little like deflated in the moment, realizing that and it's always so easy to get hung up in your head on like, oh, they could have done that, they should have said that, or the idea I had in my head for how this played out was better. But we don't know the conversations that take place in the writer's room as to why or why shouldn't Cad Bane be the one to do it. Maybe they thought it would have been it would have come across as maybe too convenient if this guy who not only is like the antithesis to sort of the way Boba's sort of conducting himself now in the present day, shows up and starts a fight with him, but also he's the guy that killed the Tuskens. Maybe they thought that would be a little cheap. I don't know. I thought it would have been a great way to maybe tie it all in. If nothing else as well, it was nice to get some circuitry on that. Just knowing that, it wasn't the Nikto speeder bikes, it was the Pikes. I just wish, and again, I don't want to make it sound again like I'm just, what I had in my head was better than what they did, but I realized as well, like coming to that epiphany that the Pikes are the ones that did it. That I really don't take the Pikes too seriously as villains, and this show had a chance to really do that, and it didn't. And I almost feel like it didn't even try either.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
It would have been nice, like, and I think we're in agreement with this. Like a lot of time that could have been spent maybe escalating this conflict, or adding stakes to it, or conveying the threat of the Pikes, or exploring their motivations. Why do they want Tatooine so badly? What are they gonna do? Like, can we see the Pikes maybe be desperate and try to? I would think of perhaps I think of the Onderon arc in the Clone Wars, and how much time you spend dotting between the insurgency's perspective and like the King's perspective, and there is an escalation the whole entire time that culminates in the last episode where there is an all-out war on Onderon. And it would have been really nice to see that, to get a sense of where the Pikes are coming from, and I don't have to sympathize with them as villains. I don't, and I don't need backstories or anything like that. Yes, agreed, Michelle. But it would have just been great to, get to be more invested in the Pikes. But that being said, the best thing about the scene was just seeing Cad Bane talk, because Corey Burton's delivery is just
this was his best scene, I feel like, because I was like, Cad Bane is here. Like I liked his appearance last week, but even the standoffs were good. But every standoff just seemed to be Cad Bane being like, "Look at my gun." Like he says that every single time. And
he's got one trick, and that's he thinks it's going to get him through every situation, which is ultimately, I guess, a flaw of Cad Bane. But
yeah,
that's
for
true.
sure. Can we just say how scary Cad Bane is? When this dude was walking down and
he's
you
a
just
menace.
saw the Jawas, you literally, oh man, I got scared. I saw on Twitter people conversating that Cad Bane scares them more than Darth Vader. And I was like, yep, I totally agree. Like that was when he was walking walking up to the door, basically just in the dark. You just saw his red eyes. That was some creepy stuff. So yeah, that creeped me out a little. That sent a shiver down my spine. But that, like I said, as I alluded to in my opening, if you had this scene, maybe prior episode, or even this, I was just enjoying all of this. It was finally nice to see the mayor. We haven't seen him since like episode 2. We've been hearing some things like, oh, the mayor's just left from his major domo. But it's, to Parks, to what you're saying, you don't want to we're not in the writers' room, right? We're not there in those conversations.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm waiting outside the door, kind of banging. I'm like, please, let me just pitch y'all something. Let me just pitch y'all something,
Yeah.
I just thought there could have been stuff that just listen. I'm not a writer or anything, but I'm just spectating as audience member. Adding my opinion, obviously, but man, this moment right here was just so top tier. And as Ari was saying, I think this was Cad Bane's like best scene. The way he was ready to lay down, talking to the gang leader of the Pikes, and he's like, "Oh, I'll know how to draw Cad Bane, or I know how to draw Boba Fett out." And then just credits, opening logos. Like that was cinema. That was cinema right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Pikes.
Yeah.
Clone Wars, a cartoon, had them as more of a threat than they were in this series, because it just felt like they kept piling on the numbers, and you just had this guy sitting there, the leader or whatever, sitting there this entire time, the entire series, just sitting there with his gloved hands. But I will say,
That is
as
so
a Clone Wars,
true. I don't think that character ever left that room.
you just had him there, and I don't know. It would have been interesting to have some more, just string things along better, so that way you finally got this big boss meeting. It's like, ooh, all the elements are pulling in together. Let's see where things are gonna go. But instead, it was just like all roped in last minute. It felt like. So I more setup would have made this scene even more cinematic. But for me, I like seeing the mayor. That was cool. But it's, man, where were you? We missed you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wanted some more of, just more. Maybe we even got a scene in the Mos Espa Vespa episode. Well, they were trying to find out where he was. Cool. But we saw maybe in the 4th episode, or maybe even 5th, what he was doing, where he was at. Like that would have been cool. Just to string things along. And same thing with the Nitgo Sand Riders. Just that was, I don't know. I felt like they left maybe like a little bit of breadcrumbs, but nothing like kind of, I don't know. Nothing more like, I don't know. It just, to me, it just felt like very loose, wishy-washy, loose. It felt like they were just like, oh, I like that we were alluding to something here. Let's bring that in, instead of like maybe in the first or second draft strengthening that. But anyways, just spectating here. But yeah, that opening scene was cinema.
Yeah, I would say with the writers, they just dropped the Obi-Wan poster today, and I was like, you know what? I am so keen to watch something that wasn't written by Jon Favreau. And there's no offense to him at all. I love The Mandalorian, and this show was okay as well. Like, but I'm just like, it does feel like the same stuff, like not that it's repetitive. It just feels like, it's like, yeah, this is Jon Favreau. This is Jon Favreau. This is Jon Favreau. It's just got it written all over it. I'm excited to see something from someone else, that isn't Favreau or Filoni. So, yeah, that's what I have to say.
If I may add something, I also have to say the reveal that the Pikes were the ones that did it, like killed the Tuscans, was so casually
it was
conveyed.
Flat.
I feel like, if I were to do that, I would have it be something like, the mayor's like, how are we going to draw them out? He has a connection to the Tuscans, or just not even do that. Like, no, don't bring that up right away. Have them like deliberate about what to do with Boba Fett, and then have the Pikes be like, he does have a connection to the Tuscans, and then Cad Bane says like, oh, I know what will draw him out now. Maybe Cad Bane knows like that they killed the Tuscans before the audience does. And then he reveals that in the next scene, the same time. So we're learning at the same time as Boba Fett.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I wish we learned it with him, because then we could have felt. But we'd already felt it by ourselves. And when Boba feels it, it's like, yeah.
I suppose there's maybe some suspense leading up to that. Or there's supposed to be suspense leading up to that when he reveals it. But I did not feel that. That was just
Yeah. Parks, you actually bring up a really great point. It just felt like they just threw out that. I was like, I could have missed that if I wasn't fully focused on paying attention and stuff. Yeah.
No, for sure. I had to bring up before we move on, the Major Domo, just in this whole episode, in this scene, I kind of like him. Like,
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Like, I've heard people say he's really annoying, but I don't know, something about it. And I loved when he's like, not that any of you would know, but I actually did grow up on Coruscant, went to school in did major in communication or like whatever he's saying. So I don't know, I just thought he was funny. And then
Yeah.
he sort of came around in this episode, I guess he kind of teamed up with them, but yeah, he was just a funny guy throughout the series. So shout out to him. And the actor, I don't know who plays him, but I think
Matt Berry, I think.
Yeah, I think he's played very well, I would
Dude,
say.
that whole sequence where he goes out with the tablet was so funny. I don't know about you
yeah.
guys, but
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
laughed out loud. I was having a fun time with that. I'm like, no way, because I'm like, whoa, Boba was kind of quick to sign off on that. He's like, give it to me, and he sends him off, throws him off.
I would say
That
Boba
was-
can write really quickly as well, because he wrote a full thing
he,
and
yeah,
was
he
just
wrote
like done.
that was absolutely perfect the way that unfolded right before our eyes. That was great. I thought that was one of the writing moments in the episode where I was like, wow, that was kind of dope. That was kind of cool. So yeah, I had fun with that, and I literally laugh out loud moment. That was great.
The one line with the major domo that I really loved, because it was funny, and like funny in the sense where like it kind of gives you a glimpse into his character in a way. Like he comes out and I forget exactly what the Pikes say, but it's something like, "What do you want, tailhead?" And he's like, "Oh, because of that." And then he continues, and it's like, and that's a sobriquet of which I never tire. So like in a sense, he's telling you like he's been getting called tailhead his whole life.
Yeah,
but
he's like, oh, because of
but like the way this guy has like approached every situation throughout the series, he's always wearing a mask of some kind. He's never being forward with people. He's always so in that moment where he's like, it's a sobriquet of which I never tire. Like beyond the sort of like pleasantries, I got the sense like he's very actually deeply annoyed that they called him a tailhead, and I'm like,
yeah,
that's great. I like that. And that a lot of that is also in Matt Berry's performance, which was good.
Yeah.
No,
Shout out to Major Domo.
Yeah. And then we get the title of the episode, which is In the Name of Honor. And I kind of say when that title came out, I was like, yes, what a banger episode title. This episode's gonna be so good. I was so excited. And then straight from there we jumped into Grogu stuff, which to be honest, I didn't mind this Grogu stuff. He's flown to Tatooine by R2. He's chosen the armor. Peli greets him and gives him some food, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. What do we think of Grogu's choice and how it was revealed in the show? Because I just gotta say, I felt like I liked it, but also I'm like, this feels like some like huge plot points for the Mandalorian that has been very rushed over. Like all this stuff, we've said it before and we'll probably say it again, but episode 5 and 6 should have been Mandalorian episodes, and I feel like because they weren't, they had to progress some very important things far too quickly, such as Grogu deciding to, choose one or the other. But yeah, I don't know. How did you guys feel about this?
You could have easily had. I think I said this on one of the podcast episodes, but you could have because everyone was like, "How are we supposed to get a Mando appearance in the show without explaining what he's been doing?" It's like, you perfectly did that with Boba Fett in The Mandalorian. You can easily do that with Mando in this series. You can play catch up later. Be like, dedicate the premiere episode. What we got with chapter 5. Be that the season 3 premiere and have a little moment where he's like, I'm going to Tatooine. That's it. There's a story, and then jump ahead in the second episode. Do a time jump. Anyways, to talk about Grogu, when the X-Wing pulled up with R2, I was like, no way are they bringing Luke here.
Yes, I was like, stop. I know he's Luke, but like, this is Boba Fett's show. And I apologize to any viewers who like really enjoyed last week's episode. I was like, for me, Luke overstayed his welcome.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
Otherwise, in like the Ahsoka show, if we saw Luke there and that was everything we saw there, I would have been 100% in it, because it wasn't taking away from Boba Fett's story, and that's what mattered more.
Right.
But back to what you're saying, Mike. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I've been meaning to. I was gonna try to segue to what you thought of the episode last week, but But actually, I did see some tweets of yours. But yeah, that's a good ramble. Yeah, I just for me again, as I thought I was seeing Luke. I'm like, what? No, 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 no. This is the Boba Fett finale. Why are you bringing Luke Skywalker up in here? So that was great. That was great. Little trick they had up their sleeves. So that was when Grogu. You just saw Grogu there. I was like, oh, okay, smart. But I was kind of cautious and I was still kind of cautious about how Grogu was going to play into the story. And I think they did it well without taking out the spotlight. The spotlight besides the ending scene, taking the spotlight away from Boba Fett. I think that was smart. But it was kind of cool seeing an X-wing in that like rebel or in that I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Battlefront here. I forgot what they called, like little depot or whatever. So that was cool.
Yeah. Can I just say, this is completely off topic, but you just reminded me of something I meant to say at the start. The droids, the two droids, felt like I was watching Battlefront gameplay. It literally just felt like people just shooting at this thing, and there was like, I think it's called like Walker Assault, where you have to destroy the two walkers. It just felt like that, but the walkers were the droids, and I was just watching gameplay of the farmers
Walker
go and
Assault.
try and destroy them. Yeah, yeah. And I'm just
You're
like,
not even watching gameplay. You're watching that moment when you die in the game, and you're just watching everybody still going on.
yeah, exactly. I was
You're
just
watching the
spectating.
NPCs carry on the fight. There's no players there.
Yeah, literally.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
yeah,
Anyway, sorry, that was completely off topic, but I just
that's
had to
funny.
bring it up while I remembered. But we kind of talked about Cad Bane, but let's talk about what they did with him in this episode. So we have two standoffs, obviously. And I mean, yeah, I guess the big thing is they decide to kill him off, which I don't know. As I said, really just sits not well with me because I feel like they didn't fulfill the potential of having like an incredible story about Boba and Cad Bane, which they definitely could have had, I feel like. And if they wanted to kill Cad Bane off, fine. But bring him in at the start of the series so we get like a proper sort of not even send off, but just like, Cad Bane final arc. So I don't know. I'm honestly really bummed out about this. Parks, what do you think?
For starters, when Cad Bane showed up last week, that was most certainly the highlight of the episode for me. This was something we were waiting to see, and beyond it being fan service, which is not inherently a bad thing ever, as long as it's in service of the story.
Yeah.
We know that Cad Bane has connections to Boba. Their biggest connection comes through a Clone Wars arc that was never finished production, unfortunately. It would have been really nice if it actually came out in season 7 for the sake of the series, but too late for that. Anyway, it was great. And like you guys said, it would have been nice if he was in here earlier or introduced in an earlier episode, because I felt he was used the perfect amount in this episode. The problem was, again, everything leading up to this. His introduction was last week. The conflict and resolution was all this episode with Boba and Cad Bane.
Yeah.
And that was like just too much to do. And I think it had the right ending. I think that they did it very well. I think there's for me, there was a compelling character conflict between Cad Bane and Boba. It's sort of the classic sort of George Lucas approach to storytelling, where if it's like a monochromatic color, or if it's black, or if it's dark and scary, or if it has horns on its head and has red and black face paint, it's probably evil. Like it's safe to assume that. And Cad Bane looks evil, and he is like evil. Like he's heartless. He's scummy as it comes. And all that comes through. I loved what they did with him, like in terms of his presence, and how he's trying to goad Boba Fett. I wish he had more to goad Boba Fett with. I wish they could have. And again, this is me being like a Star Wars fan who's so engrossed in Cad Bane's history and Boba Fett's history. I wish they touched on more of that history. I know some people were saying like, there's been a flashback in every episode. They could have a flashback to that moment we never saw.
That's what I was hoping for. Yeah.
And I mean, we haven't seen it, so it's not like, technically like hard canon, but toward the end, like before Cad Bane says his last line, he says like, "Let me give you one last lesson, Boba." So it's kind of like how great would this have been if we saw those, like, that original story in some capacity, somewhere down the line, like a flashback of some kind with Boba Fett under Cad Bane's wing, so you can understand Cad Bane as sort of like this mentor figure. For Cad Bane to become like this almost evil archetype mentor here in the finale that Boba Fett overcomes. Like, I've risen above you. It's almost like Twin Sons in Rebels with Ben Kenobi and Maul, where you have two characters that have been at odds, and then here's the moment where it's finally evidently clear who's on top. So yeah, I thought they handled Cad Bane well personally, and Corey Burton's delivery, I said it earlier, was fantastic. Especially the line towards, like, his last line, like, look out for yourself. Anything less is weakness. And the way he said weakness, I was like, boy, this guy really believes in, like, this way of life. So yeah, to reiterate, of course, the problem with Bane, I think, was everything up to now. And I suppose that creates a problem with this, because this is supposed to be the payoff to that, and we didn't really have that, so.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think you brought up a great discussion about being hard canon. And even to me, it's been a while since I watched that, like, leaked cutscene or whatever, like, from,
The animatic,
the animatic recorded from someone's cell phone from Celebration or whatnot. It's to me, all these people that are just getting into, the extended media outside of the films, Mandalorian, Boba Fett. As you're saying, I wish they set up some type of. I mean, we just because we're in on the know, we know what's going on with Cad Bane and Boba. But what about everybody else? I thought some of my friends who are watching the show that have watched Clone Wars, have watched a little bit of Rebels, but aren't caught up in all the behind the scenes stuff. They don't know. So besides Boba and Cad Bane's prison scene in Clone Wars, I don't think there's anything else to go off of. Just in what's canon and what's available to everyone. So yeah, that very odd choice that they didn't set anything up. And yeah, I think Cad Bane really could have benefited in the series. Loved him in the last episode. Just that 2-minute or however long it was, 3-minute sequence was a highlight of the series. But they could have really benefited from having some sort of setup there. And you have the story device of the back the tank or back the pod serving as flashbacks to develop Boba's character to where he is now, connect some dots and stuff. And I really thought they would bring us back full circle with that, like at least one more time. And it could have really benefited somehow here. And I love that Cad Bane even threw it in his face, was like, why don't you go crawl into your back the pod or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, why didn't you give it to us? Yeah, you should have given us a scene with that. So, and you had the kid actor just put on some, Mandalorian little outfit and shoot a scene and call it a day. They could have had something very simple just to communicate with us, as you were saying, Parks. Just that mentorship relationship, and yeah, expand more on give some more context, because again, I know what's going on, but I thought about everyone else being confused. Like, wait, what's Boba's relationship with this blue guy? Like, what's going on here? I really wish they did something, but overall, I'm Cad Bane. I've been saying this since 2009 when he appeared in Hostage Crisis. I was like, why is everybody always up Boba Fett's rear end about him being the best bounty hunter? It's Cad Bane. He just held a whole the whole Senate building as hostage. Like, and he even that whole sequence where he's like,
that dude fought Jedi.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He fought Jedi, and he even threatened the Chancellor. Like, he went on another level, and he was in league with Darth Sidious. So I've always loved Cad Bane, and I've always preached that he's the best bounty hunter out there. So the fact that he died, I was like, no, he went out with meaning, and he added to Boba's story at the end. If it was someone like maybe someone that didn't relate to Boba's story as much, maybe as I'm trying to think of a random bounty hunter here, but let's say like Forlom or or Zuckus. That's just like,
Zuckus is like, you remember me?
right. It's like, what's going on here? Boss would
I
have been
didn't
cool
forget.
too. But
Yeah.
yeah, but Cad Bane really fit into Boba's story. But so I appreciated that, and their dialogue was really well done, I think. But yeah, you give us more context as to what was going on with them, or just to the general audience, because again, we can follow the context clues, but everyone else is probably like, what's the history between these two guys? And yeah, I could have used a
Yeah.
little bit more setup there. But Cad Bane, perfection. Rest in peace. Yeah, as already said, even though I'm a Cad Bane stan, I hope he remains dead, just because
Yeah.
yeah, it would be kind of weird just to like, oh hey, he's alive, and it takes away from Boba Fett's cool little
Yeah.
sequence there. And yeah, he held up his own against Boba and the Rancor. That was cool. So there's a lot to be
Yeah.
said about Cad Bane. And listen, if you miss Cad Bane, go watch him in Clone Wars, and he has a cool. I just can't believe he's still held up here, because he was getting his behind beat by Fennec Shand in Bad Batch. So it's like
Yeah.
everyone's
Oh
excuse like,
yeah.
he just
Why did they not have a like when Fennec
right.
walks out? Why was there
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
oh, what the hell? Like
Right.
that
I
annoyed me.
feel like part of why we didn't get that, and I don't know super like a whole bunch about it. I presume the story group at Lucasfilm is very good about creating connections through like the Star Wars media where they can. It could just be because of when the stuff with Fennec Shand and the Clone Wars was written versus when this was written. Maybe the time they had to write this versus when that was written. It just seems like a weird thing that didn't quite come to fruition. And also, by the way, I thought it was a little strange that Fennec was absent for most of the episode, because they sort of
Yeah.
send her like, go over to Mos Eisley, which is important, but we don't really see her until she gets there, and then that's it. Like
Right.
I don't know. It would have been interesting maybe. I know the episode had a lot of action, but could we maybe have like cut to her on a cool speeder chase, and the Pikes are maybe chasing her down, and she's got to do some crazy assassin stuff where she's like on the speeder but sniping them, and I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just the fantasy that would play out in my head, but yeah, I don't know. And in general, like that like Fennec not being there, I think even more than Boba Fett, I'm even more disappointed with like how they handled Fennec in this show. I've really enjoyed her dynamic with Boba Fett in those early episodes. I'd say that's one of the highlights of those few episodes, is sort of the interplay between these characters where Fennec and Boba don't see eye to eye on everything, and Fennec is sort of coming at things with a more sort of traditional bounty hunter mindset, and then Boba Fett is trying to lead by this new rule of respect. I don't think she ever really completely comes around to his perspective, and then as well, like on top of how pretty much everyone here on Tatooine got sidelined in the last two episodes, she got sidelined in this episode to a degree. She had some cool moments. I liked the bit where she helped out the mods when they were like under fire. But yeah, then she was gone for the rest of it, which was a bit disappointing. So
yeah. You know what? I will say they gave some. I agree with you. I wish they gave Fennec more. I feel like in episode 4 they really like signified her place in the series. It's like, oh, we're only gonna go up from here, right? And then of course we got that Mandalorian episode, but like, yeah, that it was a bit jarring at her involvement here, just because I was like, oh, this doesn't make sense. Boba, man, a few words. He's gonna keep it short, simple, and Fennec is gonna do most of the talking. Okay, cool. But it was just like the quite opposite. Also, I did appreciate those little moments where she was on the speeder, but as you said, it would have been cool seeing her like in a little firefight or whatnot. I will say though, her cool sequences of when she was taking out, she helped the Mos Espa Vespa gang. She just had like, she was taking them out one by one. I'm like, yeah, Fennec being awesome. All right, cool. And then of course, which I'm sure we'll get into later, but her little sequence at the end, I was like, oh, I can't wait to talk about that as well. But yeah, Fennec Shand.
Yeah. No, and well, let's talk about her moment at the end there, because she does kill pretty much all the leaders of the crime families plus the leader of the Pikes. Is that gonna? I feel like they were setting up that that's maybe gonna have some consequence, because if that's all it took this whole time to end the war, then like what were we doing this whole season? But
Go to the war
right.
yeah,
room and
I feel
kill the
like that
leadership.
could potentially be like a season 2 setup for something. Maybe like whoever's sits higher on the hierarchy than the Pike leader might come back and I don't know, be unhappy about what's happened there. So what do you guys think of that scene and the setup?
Yeah, as I was still alluding to earlier, that scene was perfection. I love how she was just taking out one by one. At first I was like, who is this? And I'm like, oh, all the little Crimson Dawn uh people that were like, oh, I can't wait to see Kira and stuff. I was like, oh well, this is Kira right here, but it was Fennec. And I was like, okay, cool. I prefer Fennec. Anyways, as Jacob said, this series could have used more Fennec and Boba. So as we got like a cool Fennec moment here, that was everything. And it kind of gruesome how the mayor was taken out. I was like, this isn't a Disney Plus show. Sign me up. It was just really weird. It took a dark turn for a second, but yeah, that was kind of cool. And I'm interested to see if what's going on here with the crime families and stuff. But again, I don't want to keep complaining, but it just would have been more impactful if we didn't see the mayor just for like an episode. It would have been like not that I need to relate to his death and be like, oh man, that hits so hard. But look at it differently and be like, wow, his connection to A, B, and C are now really affected by this. More of involved thinking behind that. But yeah, that what a cool scene. And again, the Pike leader, I was just like, see you, bud. I was like, see you, bud. I was like, there's nothing.
I was honestly like, thank God you are not you are not a good villain.
Nope.
Let's move on.
But I will say Phil Lamar, who does the voice acting. I forgot to mention this in the opening.
Yeah. No.
So cool seeing Corey Burton, Clone Wars voice actor, Phil Lamar, Clone Wars voice actor, have an exchange in live action. That was, I fanboyed to my brother about that. Cool. I was like, do you know the implications of this? Do you know how long I've waited for this? Something like this. So that was cool. Corey Burton and Phil Lamar, I bow to you.
Goated.
Definitely. I want to talk about their action. I've already harped on about it. We don't need to hear me talk anymore about it. Parks, I'd love to hear your take. Do you agree? Do you completely disagree? Where are you at on it?
I don't know. For me, the action was where the episode really shined. I will agree. Like it does having with these wall-to-wall action sequences without sort of the respite in between does make it a little stale after a while, especially when, again, reflecting far less so the problems of this episode and more so the problems of the show leading up to this point. You might not be terribly invested in all the characters here. We had a scene or two with Freetown in the last episode. We've had like really we had the mods back in episode 3, but their introduction came with sort of the expectation that like, oh, we're going to see more of these guys. Like, we're going to get more into maybe their perspective, like what Mos Espa means to them. Like again, like I said earlier, we don't need their backstories. We don't need we don't need the Star Wars novel sort of reflection on who these characters are. I just want to have a reason to care about them more. And having all these parties involved that like beyond sort of the other Star Wars media that they appear in, for example, Chrysanthemum appearing in comics and stuff. I wasn't like terribly invested in their survival, but I was very entertained. And I think there was some really great choreography in some of the action. The Mando Boba duo is just chef's kiss.
Yeah,
like
that was good, I admit. Yeah, we
got some, honestly, some of my favorite action from season 2 of The Mandalorian is like in season 2 episode 3 with Bo-Katan and Mando on the ship, and they're just cleaning house, and it's just great to see Mandalorians like fighting together, and ultimately that's what being a Mandalorian is about. So to have that sort of, you have like this brotherhood with Mando and Boba Fett sort of blossoming on screen as they're defending Mos Espa, and everything you said about the scene where Mando's sort of declaring his honor, and I feel like where the armor has maybe made a statement like "this is the way" seem like maybe a contradictory declaration of like what the creed stands for, Mando genuinely uses that statement. Din Djarin genuinely uses that statement when he truly believes in like sort of the goodness of the cause he's fighting for. So when he says "this is the way," like there's real weight to that. So yeah, it was great seeing their sort of duo. I will agree. The action does take a hit when those like Scorpion droids show up on the screen.
The droidica ripoffs, I like to call them.
Yeah, and it's very funny how new Star Wars media will just tickle a part of my brain, because I was watching that and I just was like as an audience member, I've seen the Clone Wars. I'm like, come on, guys, we need droid poppers. We need Din Djarin to slowly go in with his lightsaber and just stab it. Like, it's not that hard to figure out, but they didn't have.
He was just like hacking at it with the Darksaber for a second, and I'm just like, oh my god.
And you could still see that element of him fighting against the Darksaber too, like what the armor mentioned episode 1 or 2 ago. But it had fun beats. The Rancor, God, that was awesome. That was good. If you showed like the 10-minute sequence, like front to back of the Rancor with like the Cad Bane fight with Grogu doing his stuff, like to a Star Wars fan like 10 years ago, like what the heck would they think? It would just blow their mind. It's so awesome.
I agree with you.
And one last comment with the action. I think people overlook how difficult it is to edit action. You're not only like, having to choreograph this stuff beforehand, but you're using multiple camera setups. You're sort of navigating the geography of the scene you've laid out. You're working with all of these actors, and then you're trying to, in the editing room, you're trying to cut that in a way where the action is not only exciting, but it's coherent and it tells a story. So for me, that's the hardest possible thing to edit is action. Editing a dialogue scene well is very important, and interaction between characters, ensuring that there's ample pauses there, ensuring that, things are communicated non-verbally as well as verbally. But with action, you're trying to tell a story in chaos. Considering how much action there is in this episode, I thought it was kind of a remarkable achievement that they were able to pull that all off and it be as entertaining as it is. That being said, there was by no means did all the action in the show or 80% of it have to be in this episode. Because I imagine when they were working on the show, this was the episode that probably spent the longest time in production and the longest time in post-production, just because of how complicated it is. So there is an achievement in that into itself. But I had fun. And there was a lot of goofy stuff that I really liked. I know a clip that's been going around on Twitter a whole bunch was the one mod like doing the spin and then shooting. And at first I watched my friend and I was like, what? The more I watched it, the more I thought of like stuff in the prequels, like when the Jedi are confronting Palpatine in his office and Palpatine does the twirl through the air. And then a couple of years ago, that was like the shooting stars meme. So to me, it just feels very at home in Star Wars. And I last night I was like very confused. Today I was like, you know what? That's fun. I like that. That's kind of goofy. I think it's neat.
Yeah, I think
Parks. No, you did not just bring that up. I'm sorry.
I gave you a brain blast. I'm sorry about that.
No way. You just took me back to 2016, and that was gosh, sorry. I need a moment. Go ahead, Ari.
Yeah, I mean, I think something else I just really didn't like about the action. Well, I mean, there was a bunch, but one of the things was like the scope of it. Like, it just felt like farmers and mod people versus like droids. I was like, this is the Book of Boba Fett. Like, I don't know. I just felt like, what are we doing here? It just didn't quite feel right. Also, like, I kind of see what they were going for with like the mod girl and the farmer girl, trying to like, I don't know, have this whole thing of like farmer people and city people unite.
Yes.
But that just like built in story. I was like, this episode's already got so much going on. Like, I just did not need that at all, to be completely honest. And I don't know. I didn't like it. And they just felt like a lot of the good guys shoot the bad guys and they die, but the bad guys just stand out in the open, like waiting to get shot. Also, every time they shot like one of the good guys, they'll be fine. Like Chrysanthemum got shot probably like 15 times. Din and Boba obviously have their armor, like and the Rancor was getting like beat up as well. Like, man, that thing got beat up and it was just completely fine. And I don't know, just everything just felt a bit off to me. But
I don't know.
what can I say?
I really like the action. Just because I set my expectations really low. Thank you, Michelle. I set my I set my expectations really low, not on purpose, but I was just scared the way this series was going. I was like, man, they keep building this war up. It's not going to be as epic as they say. I thought it was cool. I thought it was cool, but I was like, it's just going to be like a little shootout in alleyways and across the streets and stuff. I thought it was just going to be like some little petty shootout as they were in the beginning. But when they brought out those droids, I thought the game immediately changed. I was like, "Oh, this is what it needed." It like raised the stakes of not just only the threat that they had, but also they keep projecting this message of protecting the city, not wanting to destroy it, and now you have these two monstrosities going down the streets wrecking shop, right? So I thought it was interesting. It was like a newer aspect. And by the way, fact, those Droideka lookalikes are actually concept art for Droidekas, I believe, in from
Oh
Attack of the
wow,
Clones. Like they
nice.
literally took that, and I think they appeared in Legends as well. But there's some trivia. So, I think, man, if this city, town, whatever, looks really big, but in this action sequences, I was like, man, it keeps we're in the same we're on the same street, we're on the same block. That's what it felt like. Felt like we were on the same block. Also, I'm just throwing all my mental notes that I have about all this stuff. How dumb, how dumb was it that you had Black Chrysanthemum? They just stuck out like sore thumbs. You had Black Chrysanthemum in one corner. You had two Gamorrean guards, another sector. Then you had all the mods patrol. I'm like, could you guys be more obvious? Could you guys be
Yeah,
more obvious? All these colorful
yeah,
characters out in broad daylight, and everyone else blends with literally the background, with the walls of the houses and stuff. And yet you had all these colorful characters around. I'm like, no one's gonna see you. But that was just a thought I had. And what was my other one? We had fight that that fight was cool. Boba and Din. That was epic. I'm telling you, Major Domo, what a lad. When he came out, it's just like, hey, running that thing down. He's like, oh wait, and then you just had them blast off and save him. That was really, really, really epic. And seeing both of them, not only was it cool seeing Boba like help Mando out and stuff, but it was just vice versa. It's like, man, give me more of this duo. That was really epic. But as I said, I appreciated the action. Some of it, yeah, there were goofy moments where it's like, man, get cover. Like there's all these pikes running around. It's like shoot them, shoot. Like why are you letting
yeah,
them get
yeah,
away? And there was definitely goofy moments in parks to what you said. I could just imagine myself trying to direct a a two-person fight and trying to direct that and trying to make sure it's coherent, makes sense. If you get punched this way, this is how you will react and vice versa. So I could just imagine what kind of scale this fight was, because I think it's one of the larger fights in the Mandoverse, if I'm not mistaken, if not the
yeah.
largest, kind of. So um
Mm.
it was really cool, but as I said, I wish it didn't feel like we were on the same block, but at the same time, really cool. It would have been cool if the Rancor, I was about to say Godzilla, if the Rancor took out one droid and the people took out another somehow. That would have been felt very like back to our Clone Wars roots. But yeah, Parks, as you said, I was sitting there being like, was Dave Filoni on set this day where he could like tell them, hey, in my episode of Clone Wars in the Onderon arc, we actually trained rebels to infiltrate shields, and I
Yeah.
like that they addressed that though, like our velocity, and they gave like some technical answer. I was like, okay, I'm cool with it. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
pretty cool. But like, yeah, man, I didn't. Who knew that these droids with shields would be more threatening than the Pike Syndicate? Crazy stuff,
Yeah.
crazy stuff. But yeah, Ari, I'm sorry you didn't enjoy the fight, man. The big battle, but I kind of did. Like I said, I came into this thinking, oh, it's gonna be like a little petty battle, like down the street, down
Mm.
the alleyway, and it just turned into like a big into a big fight. And I did not appreciate the inconsistency with this episode with our good old the gangs, the streets of Mos Espa or whatever. You had these mods attacking city folk and stealing from them, and all of a sudden they're part of the city folk and they want to defend the city folk. I feel like we need an episode with them. No, just kidding. I don't. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That
I
felt
don't know about that. I was like, really?
that felt so off though. I was like, oh, now you guys care about them. You guys were stealing water from an old man, and now you guys
Yeah.
care. But I don't know. For me, it was cool seeing them on Vespas again and coming down the streets. And it wasn't so slow this time. Appreciated that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it didn't. There was no really solid reason for them to be involved with Boba's story. It just felt like a Robert Rodriguez thing, being like, I want these people to be present in this show. You know, I want these cool looking robots, right? So other than that, I really kind of wish they gave us like a cool answer. You could make some allusions with Fennec being a mod, kind of a mod as well, being, Boba having respect for these people, but it would have been really cool to involve them more in this, even though I know not popular characters, just make it a reason, because they just stick out. Like, why does Boba care about them? And to be honest, this whole series is like, why does Boba care? This series like literally gave us no reasons as to why Boba cares about anything, but whatevs. We live on. We live on.
Yeah, I feel like oh, by the way, before we go on, we'll probably keep going for another half an hour or so. Thanks to everyone tuning in. Make sure you drop a comment, hit like, engage with us. We're happy to read out comments and everything. So
I'll read.
Go for it.
If you're in the live chat, we'll start reading out some live comments that you guys have. So go for it. If anything we said you want to add to, make sure you put it out in the comments. So appreciate you guys watching live.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, also to really want to touch on the Rancor for a sec. We've already talked about him, but first of all, am I the only one that picked up on this when the Rancor is holding the droid just before it rips it apart? Boba's like, "Do it," and then and I was like, "Oh God." I really hope they weren't trying to do some like Palpatine thing there, because if it was, I thought they were, but no one else seems to be talking about it, because
I didn't detect that.
Yeah, to be completely
honest,
felt
natural to me. It was fun.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it was. But anyway, but there's a whole thing like Rancors. They're emotionally complex creatures. We get that in chapter 3 or something, and then in this one, as soon as Boba hops off, just starts running around the city, tearing everything down. And I was like, oh, I feel like we had a connection with the Rancor, and now it's just like, I don't know, it's just running around.
It was an emotionally bad day. It's fine. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't really vibe with it. What did you think, Parks?
I think that's just another instance where like the problem is like we are missing a scene where Boba is training with the Rancor, or is something with the Rancor. I just want to be more like, we have that introduction scene, and like so much of the show, there is an introduction and then there's a resolution. There's not a whole lot of conflict in the middle with a whole lot of the arcs or elements that are introduced. And I was very fun. And I was thinking about that sentiment about Rancors being emotionally complex creatures towards the end with Grogu, but also that we've seen Jedi put like animals to sleep before. So it's not like, that's not like the most like precedent, like that's not the most obvious sort of read of that scene either. It is what it is ultimately. I think I enjoy this episode on the merits of like, this was the right way to end the show, given that the other 2 episodes were actually dedicated to the show. I know some people will push back on that. I saw a lot of really honestly great threads last week, sort of, going into how Mando's story relates to Boba, how perhaps all of the different characters like last week, like Luke and Ahsoka, relate to Boba. But I don't know. To me, they take more away than they add to it, or they took more away than they added to it. The Rancor is just one of many examples in this episode of that. Also, before I forget this, sort of jumping back in the episode here, but you mentioned it, Mike, and I just had to bring it up. We all saw like the betrayal of like the crime families in Mos Espa from a mile away, right? Like
Yeah.
that was
Yep.
the flattest twist I've ever seen in Star Wars.
Yeah.
They did not, like, from the get-go, there was no faith in it happening. There's a line from Fennec, like early episode, where she says something like, you know, they're not going to turn on us. They turn on us. Oh no, everything's going wrong. What are we going to do? And it's like, all right, I guess it's action time. Like I wasn't, I was just taken right out of it. Yeah.
I'm telling you, like, and I don't care that I'm repeating this. This literally could have used a proper penultimate episode where you set a lot of these things up, or you don't have this Mando verse stuff in here. You get those episodes out. I get it. We got to see them at some point, but maybe do a summer special and be like, "Yo, we're dropping." They did that with
used
Rebels.
to do that. Yeah.
They did that with Rebel Siege of Lothal, and now it's on everyone's streaming. But like, to get kids to sit down during the summer in North America and be like, "Yo, we're dropping season 2 early. We're saying the premiere." Do something like that where it doesn't take away from the story from Boba Fett, because Ari was talking about it earlier, but I'm looking back at the series and being like, man, a lot of I hate being that guy, like, man, a lot of missed opportunities, but literally missed opportunities and stuff that you guys just didn't expand on because you were too busy playing with your other toys. That's literally what it was. You got a new toy, you got Boba Fett, being like, man, I'm getting tired of playing with him already. I gotta go play with my favorite
go
ones.
back to the old ones.
You go back to the old ones, your comfort ones, and it's like, no, you gotta play with the new one. You gotta break the new character in, even though Boba's been around for 40 plus years. But yeah, what they could have done with that dinner scene was so epic. Man, I could have had a whole episode of just dialogue conversations, no action, just conversations like that. I'm just that type of fella, but I could have used that. But I just want to really read some, if we can, some live.
I was gonna say let's just read some comments. I'll start with Jacob, who says, I really loved the Boba Mando duo. That was my favorite moment of the episode. I really hope we continue to see them team up in the future.
Yes,
I agree. As we said, that was definitely a highlight. I didn't like the action, but that was my favorite part, where the two of them fly up on their jetpacks and like they almost like use the Major Domo as like a distraction. They were like, "Psych, here we are!" Like, I don't know. I just like that.
You know what's funny is that so many people I think we were at the episode 3 where they, instead of Boba using his jetpack to catch up to the Major Domo, it's these slow Vespas. I'll be nice. These slow Vespas, right? And it's like, well, there's not a lot of budget for these TV shows, so they probably can't use the jetpack properly. And and then we get last week's episode with the Luke CGI and stuff, and it's like, well, we know where all the budget went, but but then we actually got some cool. They had some money left, they had some dinero left, where we actually got to see, like, as Jacob or Ari was saying about them flying and stuff, zipping around. That was epic.
Definitely.
I before we move on, I also want to say, like, some of that jetpack stuff, some of the line work with the jetpacks, like there's one shot where Boba just like crashes into the ground, like he takes it all on the knees, and I'm like, and the sand is flying up. I'm like, it's so good. Like,
yes.
And there was another move where when the Scorpion droid first came out, and Boba's like right in its line of fire, and then he jetpack boosts over here. I'm like, that was a Battlefront maneuver right there. That was clean.
Yep. I love that.
I enjoyed that stuff. Where they used the jetpack in the choreography, it was used really well.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
Michelle says, I feel like everything comes back to not having enough context or story, especially since the 2-episode long detour. Yeah, I completely agree. Yep. This this show could have used 2 more episodes, and you know what they did? They just took 2 episodes out for some reason. So
yes, Michelle.
I completely agree. Jasper says, I like the fight scenes a lot too, but I agree it would have been nice to have the city people take one of the droids out too. Yeah,
I'm glad you agree with me, Jasper.
And in the vein where this like episode reminded me of like Rebels, it also made me realize, like, man, I think Rebels sort of did this story a little bit better with Lothal. Granted, Rebels has way more episodes than this show, way more screen time than this show, but really all the show need to do to really make like a lot of these characters more interesting in the final fight and to add stakes to their survival was Boba needed to spend more time and we just need to spend more time interacting with the community throughout the series. We finally got we got that from we got that from the start, to be fair, with Garza, and then we got that with the mods in episode 3, but that's kind of where it ended. We didn't really get any more of that. We got the crime families, but it would have been cool maybe to see how people feel about the crime families. Like maybe they're trying to do things, and the crime families are again like representing this conflict with Boba, which is sort of fear versus respect, or fear versus honor rather. And the people want to live in their own rights, and the people are preventing them from doing that. And then these very same people are essentially fighting for their freedom, and the final battle here.
It's called Freetown.
Yeah, they're fighting for not just free town now, but free planet. It needed more of that,
Right. Especially since we've been on Tatooine for forever. The New Hope, Phantom Menace, we got some cool Clone Wars episodes on Tatooine. So yeah, we could have seen a lot more of just the community and stuff. Like how were the pod race events affected by the spice and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It just you have a really cool setup with spice, and you could do a lot, but they just folded in.
Yeah. I want to say as well with spice, like I think it is a little frustrating how vague spice is. Like sometimes, like we know what spice is, and they explain it pretty well in like Clone Wars season 7, like the uses for spice. But I think for the sake of this show, it should have been made very clear, like this is what spice can do. This is what it's used for. Right. And also, there is a sense where spice is not necessarily like used for like drugs or anything like that, but it can also be used for like actual like medical
as you say in Clone Wars season 7, like Ahsoka straight up says like, think of all the good this spice could do or something like that, and then of course Chase dumps it. But
I equate the treatment
that's way behind us.
Well, I equate the treatment of spice in this series the way what's his name, Cobb Vanth, just kicks it. It's like, ooh, spice, and then he just like kicks it open and just lets it all spill out into the openness of the desert. Same with the Tuscans, where they just are all like dropping it and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, that's kind of what the creators are doing. It's like you could have done some really cool things with spice, but you're just throwing it all away. All right.
Yeah.
Maybe like I would have wanted spice to be more of like a MacGuffin, where it's like, like if you line from Dune, like he who controls the spice controls like the universe or whatever. But yeah, honestly, like if there was more of an emphasis on its use, it could have come across better. Anyway,
literally.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Chelsea says, I'm late to chat, but all I have to add is that Farm Girl and Jessica Girl are girlfriends now. That's it. Yeah. Yes. I mean, as I said, didn't love that they were in this episode, but I would have liked if, they could have their own thing. But it was just like this episode didn't seem like the time for them to come in, but no. I'm with Chelsea though. I'm with Chelsea.
I felt like there's moments where I'm like, man, I really wish we were with the soldiers, and I like that they were showing the aspect, because they alluded in the last episode, like, no, that's a city folk problem. And it's like to see them come together. It was like it wasn't so up in your face, but like, wow, this is the moral dilemma of the episode. It was just like a cool little thing to add. It was kind of like in the background. I don't know. So when you got this cool moment between them and even switching weapons, I was like, hey, I dig it. That's cool. You're not really projecting in your face anything. It was just like a cool little like, hey, we're gonna make the background not so seamless, but a lot more playing into the actual main story, rather than having these guys as like, what do you call them, cannon fodder, where they're just there to like bite bullets and stuff. Like you actually have them important to the story. So I kind of dug it. Nothing too important though, but it was just cool.
Yeah, for sure.
One thing I want to add as well, one thing I look forward to, like with sort of the ongoing Mandoverse, is that we could see a lot of these characters again. Someone like Cobb Vanth just jumps into
right.
Absolutely. And to the point earlier with like Boba and Mando, something I'm very excited to see going forward is sort of like the ongoing brotherhood between these two characters. I can see this going like really far and doing some really awesome things. And I'm just like, while this show may have disappointed me as a Boba Fett fan, aspect of Boba and Mando like being buddies in the future, that makes me really excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and that's why the last episode not infuriated me. I don't want to be dramatic, but it like got me upset when
No, you're
when
not being dramatic. It definitely did infuriate him.
when
And I've been
you
hearing
had
about it all week. Oh man, that last episode. Oh,
even in prep when we are doing prep for the show today, Ari was talking about how has this taste for this, and he's like, "Do you think this is the weakest episode?" And I was like, "No." Ask me. You should ask me this a week ago. If it
yeah,
was we had a funny combo behind the scenes, but
yeah,
when you have I think they had good synergy in the Mandalorian, Boba Fett, Mando. And then when Boba just looks at Din in the last episode, I was just like, "That's it? That's all you got? Like, you guys aren't gonna exchange words? Okay,
yeah,
cool,
yeah.
I guess."
Yeah.
Well, yeah, as Jacob says, the 2 Mando episodes really did take away a good chunk of plot from the series. In reality, this series is only 5 episodes. Exactly right. The one thing that Boba Fett needed was more time in the middle, and they spent all their time in the middle with another show, which is
Right.
very frustrating. But Jacob also asked, do you guys think we'll get a second season? Which
Ooh.
something we were going to bring up. So thanks for asking.
Thanks, Jake.
And I would say at this point, I just don't really care. Like, and it hurts to say that, but I just like, I want to care and I want to be someone who's like, yes, let's go have a second season. But I'm just like, if you guys do a second season, for all I know, half of it's going to be another show. It's going to be so distracting. Like, I don't know. Here's what I will say. I really want to see Boba Fett's story continue. Boba Fett's story, though. Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I would say. So, yeah. And do I think it, though? I think they'll probably do a second season. Yeah. What do you guys think?
I'm with you.
Yeah.
They might. It could be a thing where, we get more Mando seasons and then they'll announce another Book of Boba Fett season down the line when they found like another opportunity to let's have another Boba Fett chapter, essentially.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, I'm like, man, like, I feel like, and that's any show. Like, there's such a almost like all too perfect resolution at the end, that it almost feels like you really can't do anything more with it. I mean, obviously, there's stuff with Cobb Vanth, and we have so many characters on Tatooine now we can play around with. That would be a lot of fun, and so many more we could do in the future.
Yeah.
Hashtag where's Bosk? But
Yeah, right.
that which is crazy to me that he never showed up. But
I agree.
And like,
they even set up the whole Trandoshan Wookiee like thing.
Right.
So great.
Why you had amazing Trandoshan costumes and you did not use Bosk? It's baffling. At the same time, though, if they go into a second season, I'm just gonna be, I don't know. There are so many things about this season that it was like you played with some really great stuff with like Boba Fett's story, like Cad Bane, but that's over. Cad Bane's dead, which is fine. Yeah. But like you skewed so much of the execution up to that point that I'm like, God, I don't know. I almost, I think some people have said like Boba Fett is the problem with the show. I've seen that take around, and I think that's people just sort of playing off of like, what's like the last 2 episodes, like, because they were really enjoyable for a lot of people. But if you gave Boba Fett the full 7 episodes, if you gave him a chance to really live out the story, maybe people's opinions would be different. You know?
Yeah. And sorry to interject, Mike, but Alexander says half the show was about Mando and Grogu, and they already did most of the flashbacks of his story, so no season 2. I kind of see what you're saying, but I feel like, they've done the flashbacks. You're right. But I want to see the current day stuff. Like, I feel like, they did the flashbacks really well, but it's like, come on, let's get some good present day Boba. Because for me, at least, I feel like the only really good, like solid present day Boba we got was in Mandalorian. So that if they were going to do a season 2, like, I don't necessarily think they just did this show to, to have flashbacks to explain how Boba got to Mandalorian. So, I would hope that if they do a season 2, it's like it's a Boba Day current story. But for sure. What are you gonna say, Mike?
I mean, it's all right there. They had some allusions to a story continuation. You had someone saying that they were, was it the mayor or someone, the Pikes the Pike guy where they were like, oh, I need to report this or something, and people are like, who's he gonna report to? Crimson Dawn. So I think it's at this point I don't care. I was like I was iffy of Crimson Dawn. I was just like, I don't really care. I just really want this to. It's again, it's called the Book of Boba Fett. There's so many aspects that you could have taken this with, and hey, if you wanted this whole season to be a revenge tour, great. There were moments where it definitely felt like that. Yeah, right. Life is a highway. You could have definitely done that with Boba Fett.
Sure is.
But you literally, it's all right. It's just all there. Like you easily had a cool story, but I think they were playing into the hand of like expanding the Mandoverse at times. And like I said, do what you got to do to set up. You gotta. Here's a smart thing, the business side, right? You have this really successful show in The Mandalorian. You got Grogu phenomenon, world phenomenon, culture phenomenon. Cool. Mando as well. Okay, cool. You want to get the Mando and Grogu fans to watch Boba Fett? I'm all in. Bring Mando in, bring Grogu in, but don't let them take the spotlight away from Boba Fett. Don't. Exactly. And here's the thing. You had Boba Fett take for a moment, he just took the spotlight in The Mandalorian. He had this really cool action sequence where everybody was like, "Who's this Boba Fett guy?" Who wasn't a Star Wars fan or who wasn't in on the know. So I had that happen to one of my friends, and she went ahead and watched Clone Wars and stuff like that, and watched all the movies. But anyways, I would totally love a season 2, but at the same time, I'm like, do I really want another roller coaster of like, man, the episode was so great. I'm talking about chapter 2, and then the next week being like, next week it's gonna be
it's too much. It's too much of a roller coaster.
That was me all this time after episode 2. I was like, no, it's gonna be next week. Next week, so it's gonna hit it. As Parks, you came on for episode or chapter 3, and you were like, next week I want it to be all. What'd you say? All killer, no filler, as they say.
Bring it. And
bring in all the killer, no filler.
I'm gonna be honest. Like, no offense to Rodriguez, but that comment has not aged very well.
Nope.
None of his
not
comments.
At all. By all killer, no filler, he meant we actually removed all the filling in the middle. Like,
exactly.
And we've killed the show.
No, literally, and all the comments that he has said about the marketing of the show, of being like, "Oh, this show over delivers." All his comments have aged terribly. I'm sorry. This is coming from a guy that actually kind of likes this show a lot, but at least the Boba Fett stuff. But man, give you know what? I have this book here. It's called "Be More Boba Fett."
What is that?
I consider this.
Give it to Jon Favreau. I think he could read that.
You dropped.
Love you, John, but come on, man.
Love you, John.
The Book of Boba Fett, I would love if it.
We actually have the Book of Boba Fett right here. You should have
right here. It's all in the blueprint.
That's the real Book of Boba Fett right there. But that's the ask. Did you guys already talk about the jump scare when we thought Luke was in the X-Wing? Because Jasper did actually watch with us, and we were all like, "Oh no, please don't be Luke." But thank God Grogu popped up. He also said we only ever spent time in the cantina and they were all dead. Yeah, to add what we were talking to about before, it would be nice to get to know like the streets of Mos Espa, and then the one place we got to know just got blown up. So I was like, well,
that was one of those things like where seeing the escalation of the conflict would have really been felt, because when Boba and Fennec were standing there, they could have seen like maybe how their actions led to this. If they did something that provoked the Pikes to did that. All they really did to provoke that was just being there. Yeah. And so it just feels kind of unfair,
Jasper, sorry, Parks. So sorry. Okay, last week when we reviewed the last chapter, Ari was like, very nicely, he asked me, Mike, what do you think about Garza, whatever her name is, Garza's cantina? Garza's they made me care so much about that character, and then they just took her away, and I was like, yeah, whatever. But what do you think about her cantina blowing up? I was like, I implore everyone to go watch any other TV series that's not Star Wars, because this has had some of the most sloppy writing. Right,
it came out of nowhere.
It came out of nowhere, and it was like
it would have been a good moment if there was.
Well, look at what Michelle just said. I'd take a season 2, but not in my shot. I hear what you're saying. I mean, I doubt they'd ever do that, but I hear you. And as I say with Kenobi, I'm like, yes, can we watch something that wasn't written by Jon Favreau? I literally do. I love Jon Favreau. I just want to make that clear. However, I would love to watch some live action Star Wars that wasn't written by him.
And you can very clearly see, like in the last 2 episodes, the love and affection John and Dave have for Mando and his like, his sort of side of like the storytelling, and it is done exceedingly well. It's just like, obviously the entire problem of that taking away from Boba, so they can keep writing Mando. That's fantastic. Let them keep doing that.
Definitely.
But it's so I don't know. I really want to know more about
Obi-Wan, because if they wrote Obi-Wan, it'd be like halfway through, 10-year younger Din Djarin, here he is. Like,
no,
I hate that we're saying that, but like,
let them move into the producer role. I mean, you can still have shows like Boba Fett and have it contribute to the Mandoverse, but you don't have to write the entire damn thing. You can sit more on the producer role, like Kathleen Kennedy does, and have input every now and then. And like Kevin Feige does, he doesn't write and direct every single MCU movie. He's in the producer role. You can have that with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. Sit at the producer chair, be in all those meetings, help guide, plant the story, plant the seeds, and let other people come in and tend the garden. You know what I'm saying? They literally could take that approach, just because a lot of this felt stale, and it just felt very I think Ari said this a lot. A lot of corporate synergy. It just felt very like a lot. I felt like we cut corners a lot just to fit into Mando's story, to fit into Grogu's story. And I don't know about you guys, but I kind of feel that emotional scene. I don't think I'm going to see that emotional scene anymore the way I have the way I did the first time with Din departing with Grogu, because now it's just like, well,
exactly. That is
we're back together.
Point. That is a fantastic point. That scene implies that they're about to spend a mammoth amount of time not together, and like that. The next, like,
I haven't thought about
just
that,
like that,
because that scene destroys me. Like, I've never cried so much at any scene in Star Wars than that scene at the end of Mando season 2.
Yeah,
and I don't want to say what they did here undercuts it, but like they definitely revert it back to the status quo of Mando and Grogu are doing adventures together,
right?
Which I'm fine with. But it's like, there was something very meaningful about like, if you look at that sort of archetypal experience of a father sending their son away to college or school, or accepting that they're growing up and going somewhere else.
Yeah.
Now it's like, Grogu is a college dropout, and he's like, "Don't worry, we're going on more adventures."
Yeah, or it's like his dad's just going to like stay in his dorm with him or something. Like,
that's what I was about to say.
I hate to say that, but that's where we're at.
No, Parks, you'll get this. It was Labor Day weekend. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna take the family, and we're gonna go see you." So yeah, we just we said,
and they took him back with him.
Yeah, then you come back.
You don't just come back. Yeah,
we departed with you 2 weeks ago, and now it's Labor Day weekend, and we're gonna go say hi and come back with us. Yeah,
for real.
Oh gosh.
Jasper asks, why do you guys think they were forcing the Freetown name so much, and have fans have a go at them for calling it Mos Espa or something? We talked about it. We honestly no idea. Like, but that reminds me of the scene at the start where Pelly's like, Grogu, that's your name? That's stupid. I'm never calling you that. I was like,
she spoke for me.
Yeah, honestly, man. I mean, if she did, then I disagree with you, because when the Grogu name came out, I was like, that's a cool name. Like, what? And either way,
I think Grogu's a genius name.
And everyone was just like, it was like, that is the dumbest name ever. He's always going to be Baby Yoda in my eyes. And I'm just like, what? But with the Freetown thing, yeah, I don't know. I know it's called Freetown in the Aftermath books, but I don't know why they care all of a sudden. They could have done that in the Marshall episode of The Mandalorian. It was just bizarre.
Who gives a flying freak? Like, it was just like, for what? It was just, and if it was funny, fine. And things that we can harp on, and we can harp back to and be like, oh, that was funny. Oh yeah, that one funny line. It was just, it just came out. I was like, okay. Like, I'm telling you, Jasper was there when Ari and I were like, bruh.
Yeah. And that was the one thing that me and you just looked at each other like, what is going on?
What is going on? Yeah.
And it's like, imagine every time you were saying something like, and you just got it like slightly wrong. I was like, it's called Tatooine. It's called Coruscant. Like, that's just what I felt like. Like, how awkward would that make the podcast? if every
It,
like because that's what it felt like in the show.
Right. Right.
I don't want to, like I don't really ever make like comparisons between Marvel and Star Wars. They're doing two different things. And a lot of the gag humor in Marvel like comes from Star Wars, honestly, if you look at like the original films.
Right.
But it did feel a little bit like what you would usually see in a Marvel movie where, Cap is saying something and Iron Man's like correcting him. And like, yeah, it wasn't as like, yeah, it like everything else in the show, there was probably like a middle part where the joke really made sense.
Right.
And then it would have been funnier, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
If it was meant to make sense, it got lost for me because I was
It
just
got
like,
lost.
what?
It got lost. No, you know what else got lost for me? I just want to say this real quick. Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni and George Lucas literally worked on making Boba Fett a character in the Clone Wars and exploring all these like caveats to him that like, wow, we can explore like these traumatic elements that not just paint him as a bad guy in response to the trauma, but like you actually delve into like some of the things with that and how he reacts and stuff like that. And wow, he's a kid, and look at how his response to losing his dad and such, and still having some type of heart and some having conflict.
Yeah.
Where was
Yeah.
that meeting? Where was that writer's room here? Like, I mean, I again love what they did with Boba Fett early on in the series. It's like, oh, I'm talking about,
Definitely.
listen, chapter 2. I keep that was just like that was pure like that one of the best episodes of Star Wars television. But why didn't we dive more into Boba's character? How did Cad Bane affect Boba? We just got like we literally got the icing of all that, and it's like, listen, I love my icing, but give me the damn cake. I love eating cake. Give me the cake,
Yeah.
not just the icing. So really like we could have developed into some things, but I just want to say that about Dave Filoni because
Yeah.
Michelle was like, I like a season 2, but without
Yeah.
written by Dave
Yeah.
and
Like,
Favreau.
yeah, kind of to go off what you're saying, like when I look back on this series, like I feel like I've sounded like such a negative Nelly today. I don't mean to. I'm usually I'm quite positive. I swear to you guys, I usually am quite positive. But this
Me
just
too. I try to
this
be.
finale
Yeah.
just like rubbed me the wrong way. And however, when looking back, like obviously I have so many issues with this series. When looking back, episode 2 is what I'm going to look back to because that was by far my favorite episode of the series, and it just encapsulated everything I wanted the show to be, and set up things that I thought they were going to pay off, but sort of didn't. But like that, when I look back on the show, I'll think of like, yeah, those first 4 episodes, because, and then when I think of like Mando season 3, I'll probably think of episode 5 and 6 because those are Mandalorian episodes. But yeah, we're coming close to finishing up. We'll still go through a few more talking points, but be sure to drop any final questions you guys have. Drop a like. Having loads of fun here, chatting with Mike and Parks. So yeah, make sure you drop any more questions. But Alexander says, what does Grogu mean? Is there a meaning? I don't think there is. I just like it because I just think it sounds cool. Do you have something, Parks? I bet you do.
It's not that complicated. It's only 5 letters. But my read of the word was always that his name is Grogu. You can't spell Grogu without grow. And the whole point of Grogu, in addition to Mando, is that this is a character. Grogu forces Mando to grow as a person. That he is this. That there is a very clear difference from who Mando is at the start of season 1, episode 1, to the very end of season 2. As someone who was once, very much like that stoic, heartless killer, who is as much of a shell of a person as he is with the armor, to being someone who's capable of like open-mindedness and compassion and selflessness by the end. So Grogu, in a way, forces him to like, you have sort of the phonetics of a name like Yoda, but the element of growing in the name. So like he's forcing Mando to grow. That's how I've always understood it. And when every time I hear it, I think of that. Well, not every time, but I think of that often when I hear the name. And I think like, man, that's kind of like a beautiful thing that like this sort of adopted child like allows this person to actually like move on as a human being, So
yeah.
Yeah.
I knew you'd have some answer to that,
Yeah.
because I had absolutely nothing. I'll be honest, but
I think it sounds dumb. That was you like 10 minutes ago. Now you believe.
Now I'm with you.
He's
Now
growing.
I'm with you. Just because the name Grogu always freaked me out because it always took me back to that weird Rosario Dawson Ahsoka scene where she was like, Grogu and I could feel each other's thoughts. Like, okay, it just came off
That's
as
not
so
weird. Why are you?
I'm with Fox. That was a beautiful scene.
No,
I love that.
Listen, I think about that one line and it just throws me off. But I still like Rosario Dawson Ahsoka. Anyways, just thought thank you Parks for that beautiful insight.
Yeah, so something we actually haven't talked about yet, which I'm surprised we're like an hour and a half in, still haven't mentioned it. Cobb Vanth, the post-credit scene. He's alive, and is that set up for season 2? I don't know if that a lot of this stuff. I'm like, is this set up for the Mandoverse? Is this set up for the Ahsoka show, The Mandalorian, or is this setting up the actual show that we're in? So I got no idea where this Cobb Vanth post-credit scene is going to pay off. I hope it's in. I'd say I hope it's in Boba Fett. Me and Mike have talked before about me telling him I was hoping that Boba gives Cobb Vanth the armor, because even Cad Bane says to him, you should never have left him without his armor and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, because Boba's sort of sitting there up in his palace, not doing much. No offense to the guy. While Cobb Vanth was out there, dealing with the Pikes, doing all this stuff. So I still want that to come true, where Boba kind of he even says at the end of the episode, like, we're not built for this or something like that. And so I would still love to see that happen, where Boba gives Vanth the armor back and we see that armor be used for good. And I don't know, Boba puts his Tusken robes back on or something. I'm not sure, but maybe fans would get way too upset about Boba giving his armor up. But that's sort of what I would like to see. And so I do hope this Cobb Vanth post-credit scene is setting up a future Boba Fett season, because I think those two stories merge well. I don't know, Parks, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, maybe I'll backpedal a little bit on sort of the answer to season 2 in regards to Cobb Vanth, because if the door was open in any way, it's obviously Cobb Vanth. And also toward in the end, when Boba and Fennec are walking through Mos Espa, and you have this great bardcore version of Boba's theme playing in the background. I thought it was kind of neat. But Boba's like, does everyone have to bow to me? Is this really the life we want? And then Fennec says, if not for us, then who else? And then the camera pans across all the people that helped Boba take back Mos Espa. So for me, what the scene was saying there, if it's not for them, who else? It's for the people. And who better represents the interests of the people than Cobb Vanth? So
Exactly.
If the door is open for future seasons, it could be Boba has something that comes up where he's required to leave off world. He hands the reins over to Cobb Vanth to be the daimyo of Mos Espa, which would be great. And I could see that happening just simply because I feel like as time goes on, Boba and Mando's stories are going to become increasingly intertwined. Especially once we get into all the Mandalore stuff. There are elements of sort of the Mandoverse that are sort of feel like they're setting up stuff from Legends. I know a lot of people are keen on Heir to the Empire. We know Thrawn's out there, and Luke's doing his thing. So there's a lot of setup for that story that already in place. Something else in Legends, of course, is sort of Boba's I think his sort of dynasty on Mandalore and stuff after Return of the Jedi. So it would be interesting to see him become more involved in the Mandalore storyline in the future. Whether that's in Mando's show or his own series, I don't know. They could do lots of things. Maybe Bosk will be like, hey, Boba, I got a crazy bounty I'm trying to hunt down. I need your help. His name is Embo or something like that. I just pitched that. There we go.
Yeah. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I'm listening to Parks, and yeah, he sold me on the idea. I mean, I took that as Cobb Vanth being I was like, well, he's just gonna appear. Not only I didn't take it as a season 2, because Ari and I were speculating. We're like, are we gonna get? We did a Instagram live stream beforehand with some of our followers, and we're asking everyone, what do you expect to see at the end? Are we gonna see a trailer for Kenobi? And we're like, oh, we hope not.
Oh,
we hope
please
not.
no.
We it would just totally override any so it would all the conversation would just what you could have had Boss show up, that you could have had like Han Solo show up, and people would have been like, oh, the Kenobi trailer, whoa, or something.
Exactly.
Kenobi.
Yeah.
But with the Cobb Vanth thing, I'm just like, oh, this is like an overall Mandoverse thing, just introduced into the Mandalorian. It's kind of cool that they introduced him in Mandalorian, but now he's gonna play an integral part into this story. But yeah, Mandoverse, Boba Fett, synonymous with one another, I guess, because it's it's the same universe. So I could see that happening, him taking over at some point to stuff, just because he's I guess he's good at that stuff. Yeah, I thought that was cool how they showed us at the end, and then you had Thundercat waiting in the back, the mod doctor waiting in the back with his already turning it on. I was like, yeah, turn on that music and let's get to work. I don't know. I thought that was neat, but yeah, Cobb Vanth, except that he's alive, and we'll see where that goes. And some people were saying that the post-credit scene was underwhelming, and it's like, first of all,
I disagree with that. Yeah,
no, I thought it was cool. And here's the thing: was
the right thing to show?
Yeah,
right, exactly. Was it as cool as the Boba Fett one or the Mandalorian one, where they teased the book or where they announced the Book of Boba Fett show? No, but the thing is, with post-credit scenes, they don't owe you anything. They're just literally there for just a little end piece, and as like a little, oh, thanks for watching the credits. I always took them as that.
Yeah.
So it's like, thanks for watching the credits. Here's a reward. Here's a little prize. You won a prize. It's nothing that's they better have a post-credit scene. It's just something at the end. Hey, thanks for watching the post-credit scene. Here's a little thingy. So people. Sure. I think maybe that lends conversation to like how the MCU has like revolutionized the use of end credit scenes, post credit scenes, but it's like, come on, y'all, it's not that serious.
Yeah. Thanks to Alexander, says you guys are awesome. Have a good night.
Right, thanks, Alexander. Thanks for coming
as well. Sorry, I missed a question before from how do you say this? Scampoli25. I loved all the references to Once Upon a Time in the West and Butch Cassidy. I don't know.
Butch Cassidy, yeah,
that is. Said it right.
There is a bit of Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid to freaking Boba Fett and Mando, especially the shot. And in a way, like that scene where they're talking about honor. I don't know if you guys ever seen Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Classic beloved Western.
Right. Okay.
The sort of like the definitive, like here's the like the duo like Western film. There's a scene at the end where they're pretty much gunned down from all sides, and they're like having this final conversation before they head out and just take it on, knowing certain death is ahead. And to me, that was like, I didn't think about it, but Scampoli, that's a great point. Like that scene there, very clearly was inspired by that, which is great because that's such a beautiful part of the film.
Yeah, for sure. They also say I was fully satisfied with the Cad Bane ending. It reminded me of Obi-Wan and more fight in Rebels.
Scampoli,
so that's a pretty good take.
You were truly based. I love this comparison. That is beautiful. You are truly based. That is awesome.
Yeah.
No, like I said earlier in the podcast episode, you had such an emotional moment, and to Boba's character, I mean, like I said, the dialogue was really the strength of that interaction, and you had Cad Bane being like, "You're nothing but a cold-blooded killer." You talking about you have your father's blood and stuff like that, and it was really gruesome in the dialogue. And then Boba, wiped the floor at the end, and I love that he just had his staff, and it was very symbolic of his journey as well. And you had and even when he killed him, he was still like, damn, like it wasn't like a moment of satisfaction, but I felt like he took him a second to be like, damn, it had to end this way. I mean, I'm maybe reading into it, but Tamara Morrison's face kind of said it all.
I would say like there was a second of
sorry, excuse Ari. He was
sorry, I just did a terrible Tamara Morrison.
He's got a wonderful face. I would say that was a better Cad Bane impression than a Tamara Morrison impression there. The teeth really did that. But I feel like there was maybe like a second of mercy, which is a prevalent theme in this show. I think if there's like a thorough line, it's the idea of the power of mercy and like giving someone a chance to maybe prove themselves differently. There is a second where he's holding the staff over Cad Bane before he stabs him, but then Cad Bane's like, "I always knew you were a killer," And at that point, it's clear Cad Bane is going to take the next opportunity he has to try and fight back again. And at that point, it's like, I have to do this. You know, I gave you mercy and you wasted it. So, and again, yeah, the comparison is very valid with Maul Obi-Wan fight, where that fight, not to say like, not that it doesn't matter which one's better than the other, but I think where that fight in Twin Suns is extremely powerful is that it has so much text to work off of between Maul and Kenobi. They've had so much interaction with each other. They've had so many ups and downs with each other. That all of that plays into the fight between Obi-Wan's different stances to show like the different phases of his life, to show the sort of the move that, you know, Maul used on to kill Qui-Gon that Obi-Wan has now countered, to show that he's learned. So there's so much character built into that. We don't have nearly enough of that going into this confrontation with Boba and Cad Bane. They did it about as well as they could have. Obviously, we've seen, if there's anything we know about Cad Bane, it's that you can't beat him in a shootout. And in his old age, that's sort of the last thing he has. He doesn't have, like, there's no other tricks he has except, and throughout the entire episode, well, throughout the whole series, really, which is 2 episodes, that's the only tactic he ever employs. And any time that someone actually buys into it, it works in his favor. So that part made sense and was used well. And then you have that character conflict toward the end of rely on yourself, like anything else is weakness. Obviously, that's like the antithesis to Boba's whole thing in the series about, ruling with respect, bring a community together. It's a very Star Wars thing.
Yeah, for sure.
No,
and
definitely.
you guys should totally subscribe to Park's YouTube channel, ArTorr, because if you guys want to hear, if you want to hear more of that beautiful insight, go subscribe to his channel on YouTube. So that's ArTorr. So check that out.
Yeah, if you don't already know, absolutely stellar videos on Clone Wars, Rebels, Fallen Order, Bad Batch. Good stuff. Go check it out.
You have a Fallen Order video?
You didn't know that?
No. I need to check that out. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. No, it's all right. It's all right. I just thought you would have seen it already. That's okay.
My fault.
That's all right. It's all right.
Highly recommend. Highly recommend. It's a good one. Davey says, I hope post-credit scenes in the sense of expectation we're referring to aren't a continual trend. I prefer that's a Marvel thing for setting up content. Completely agree. I just don't like the idea of post-credit scenes. Never have, not even in Marvel. Like, I like Marvel, but I don't know. I liked the Book of Boba Fett one. I felt like that made sense. But this one, as in Mando season 2, setting up that show, this one was fine. But I was like, it's just not necessary. Just put it in the show. Like, just the whole idea of like this post-credit thing. I don't love it. I know some people love it, but that's the thing. Some people just go to watch a Marvel movie to see what the post-credit scene's about, and I'm just like,
Eternals.
Yeah, I haven't even seen Eternals yet, but it's like.
I mean, for me.
Also, sorry, very quickly, shout out to Davey. Davey's one of my best friends. Thanks for tuning in.
Nice. Hey, Davey.
We're both Davey. We're both. Davey, when I was rewatching the Clone Wars for my videos that I made on ArTorr, Davey was rewatching it with me.
That's sick. All right, shout out Davey. Shout out Davey. Yeah, Davey, I'm here with you, and I'm not one to clamor for post-credit scenes. If we get one, we get one. If not, we don't. It's if we didn't get one for this series, I've been like, okay, moving on. They gave me the everything that I kind of wanted and stuff, and even if they didn't, it's just not their obligation to throw post-credit scenes, and it's just this younger generation of that we just want that post-credit scenes for some reason. It's like, no, we already ate. We already got the full course meal in the episode if it was good or in the movie, and people just clamor for a post-credit scene. Like, if the story's good enough, it will leave you wanting more and leave you on. Hi, Davey. It would leave you. It would leave you wanting more. It would leave you on. It would set up like kind of a hook for you to be like, oh, that's got me in. That's got me in for more. A post-credit scene shouldn't make or break that. So, anyways, that's my spiel.
Yeah,
I agree.
Definitely. Yeah. So we're kind of reaching an end point here. As I say, if any last minute questions, drop them in, and we'll rapid fire a few if there's any left. But before we do wrap up, you know how it is here. We want to give our overall ratings, but I want to hear your overall rating on this episode and just the Book of Boba Fett as a series. Ooh. And give your final take on what came of the Book of Boba Fett. So Parks, let's start with you, our guest today.
This episode, I would say, it did everything it could have up to this point. I had a lot of fun with it. I think there was a lot. It was very impressive from a technical standpoint of what they were able to accomplish. Um, and where it fell flat, that reflects more so on the show leading up to it. I would say either a high 7 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10. I had
For the series?
for this
for the
episode.
episode.
This episode, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. For the series,
I'm with you, Park.
It's
I'm definitely with you.
it's been a mess. Like
Yeah.
those first 4 episodes, I have to say I was invested. And starting the show, like it's been a year since Mando. We've had, of course, Bad Batch in between, but there's a different sensibility to Star Wars in live action. There always has been. Not to knock any of the animation, obviously. There's some exemplary stuff there. But Star Wars was born from live action, and obviously there was a lot of incredible stuff they did in Mando. And after spending a year of watching, say, Disney Plus Marvel shows, there was something so magical about being able to step into the Star Wars world again, where you have these incredible costumes, incredible props, transportive visuals. You have a lot of visual storytelling. You had some very great the controlled cinematography, and more than anything else, what I've long loved about Favreau and Filoni storytelling is the emphasis on characterization. We see from the beginning Boba Fett is this person who leaves behind a legacy of sort of being a ruthless bounty hunter, but now we're seeing this redemption arc for him, and that could be really powerful. And I think they started out navigating that in a very appropriate way. If you're in terms of an actual full on rebirth, Boba Fett got that in episode 2, and it felt as surreal as it absolutely came across. Where maybe the present day story was stalling up to that point, it seemed like they were laying the groundwork for that in episode 3, and we're maybe going to set up for that. I think I said something when I was on your guys' podcast with an episode where I said, we'll look back on this episode as a necessary setup for the conflict to unfold. And while episode 4 was really enjoyable, and that, the Fennec Boba dynamic was so good, that's where things I feel started going. Well, you could say they started going sideways in episode 3, but that's where episode 4 was sort of not really doing a whole lot with the setup, and was sort of starting to stall. And then episode 5, we got an amazing Mando episode. I think Bryce Dallas Howard did stuff in that episode that I haven't felt as a Star Wars viewer since The Force Awakens, when I saw that in theaters and Star Wars was back. And that was incredible, but it was also to the detriment of Boba's story a little bit. And then you got to the episode after that, and that's where I feel that's what really killed the show for me, because I think what, being that was a Filoni episode, what really makes Filoni a great storyteller for Star Wars is not just that he knows the best toys in the toy box to play with. He knows the best times to use them.
Yeah.
And he's been very consistent about that, I feel up to this point, through Clone Wars, through Rebels, through Mando. That was the episode where, despite what were honestly some very well-directed scenes with Luke, despite an incredible technical achievement with Luke, despite seeing my favorite character in Star Wars, Ahsoka, interact with Luke for the first time, and just how mesmerizing all of that was. It was to the detriment of Boba Fett's story. It was to the detriment of the setup taking place throughout the rest of the series up to the point. It was to the detriment of some of the elements, some of the themes, to just a lot of the stuff that was, you maybe had to be a little patient with towards the beginning. And it was whipping from different tones and genres, and I don't know. It was just a surprising mess. And then they had to wrap that all up in this episode, and it really feels like we were cheated out of 2 really good episodes there. So, as a whole, I'd say I give the show a high 6 out of 10, a low 7 out of 10, I think.
Yeah.
And a 6 is not a bad number. Like I'm still having a good time with it. It's
Right.
just if I'm charting my enjoyment of the series, it was higher when it started and then has only gone down, which just
Perfect.
so
Definitely.
disappointing. So, and as a Boba Fett fan as well, I should add, like, this show delivered a lot of things I've wanted to see from Fett, but ultimately I still feel like there is a hunger inside me for, like, I was still cheated out of something with Boba Fett, I feel like. So
No, I'm Parks. That was beautiful, and I'm with you. I felt while you were talking, I was like, man, this really feels like at a restaurant when you're waiting for your food and you think, oh my gosh, that's exactly what we ordered, and they're coming with it, but it goes to a different table, and it's like, where are you going? That's how I felt with That's how I felt with this series. But in terms of episode, this was to me a like 7.5 out of 10 episode, maybe even a 7, but I still have to watch it I'm still Austin said 8 out of 10 episode. Ari is not looking like a snack because he did not like this episode, but he looked less enticing now. But I would say like a 7.5.
He's looking like a snack for the Rancor.
We did. Let me tell you something. The Rancor was awesome. We didn't even touch about, but we'll have more. We'll discuss more Book of Boba Fett later. But in terms of the series, I'm gonna have to say a 6.5 out of 10. I was thinking 7, but when you're saying all that I'm like, that is so true. That was so episode. Someone in the comments, Emerson said, I'd honestly give the first 4 episodes a 9 out of 10. Okay, that's fair. I very much enjoyed episode 1. 2 is just top level tier. 3 was, I still had fun with the episode. 4, I went back and rewatched that a couple of times because I had fun with what they were doing with Boba and Fennec. But it just went downhill for me, as Parks was saying. And I've already said it all about what the series. I just feel empty, and I'm not even a Boba Fett fan, y'all. Like, I came into the series very hesitant and watched the trailer. I'm like, yeah, this looks boring. Like, I'm not into Boba Fett's character. Like, I'm not nothing about that. Also, just because it's been associated with like some weird part of the fandom that's just like, I don't want to be in that corner. But with Boba Fett fans, so
like people like Parks.
It should be called. No, I'm not going to go there.
Listen, we got a real Book of Boba Fett right here. This is Book of Boba Fett. But no, seriously, I wish we delve more into the character that is Boba Fett. I think episode 2 started to show us what that was like and what his rebirth looked like. But along the way, we just lost vision. And I'm telling you, I don't know what went on in these meetings to be like, oh yeah, let's totally deride from the Book of Boba Fett and let's do it. People are like, oh, it's an interlude, and then they do it for 2 weeks. A chapter with a book with 7 chapters is going to have 2 interludes about something completely different. Anyways, it just overall the series did not work for me, and the stuff that really held high, stuff like episode 2, but like all the other things were like, as you were saying, like stalling and a slow burn. Star Wars Resurrection. It was just a slow burn along the way, and it just had like little to no payoff. And I appreciate that the finale tried to wrap it all in a bow, because I think a lot of aspects it did, but it was like we would have gotten a more like sincere reaction, or more like I wish just there's build up, as you were saying about the Rancor. Immediately I was like, man, we should have really gotten a scene with Boba training on the Rancor and him failing so many times, and then he just whips up on that building with the Rancor controlling it, and it just would have been, wow, what a stellar moment. But anyways, that's my take.
Yeah, for sure. And what are your ratings?
So for the episode, it's 7.5 out of 10, and then for the overall series, it's a 6.5.
Yeah, I'll say I don't know. I mean, I agree with a lot of what you guys just said. First 4 episodes, I didn't love them, but I thought they set up good potential, and then that potential was never seen, in my opinion. This series is just bizarre. Like, it's just bizarre. Park said it. Honestly, it's a mess. It's genuinely a mess. Like, and that's why I would give the whole series 6 out of 10. It doesn't know what it wants to be. It had a direction, and then it just as Josh says, Rancor training would have been cool. Like, it just missed out on these crucial details that could have been like, really enriching to the story. So I really just, I don't know. I'm as I say, I'll look back fondly on episode 2, stuff like that, and episode 5 is a great episode, but I'm never going to associate that with the Book of Boba Fett because it's a separate show. But yeah, 6 out of 10 to the series, and to the episode that just came out. Oh man!
Oh no!
It's like it's probably also a 6. I want to say 5, but that's probably a bit too harsh. Yeah, it'd be a 6. Probably the weakest episode of the series. Like, it wasn't terrible. I enjoyed moments of it. I had fun at times. But it didn't do the trick for me. But yeah, like overall, I didn't hate anything that we saw. It was a positive experience. But I don't know. Yeah, overall, it was a positive experience, but it didn't reach its full potential. I would say that.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys. Do you like this season better, or do you like Bad Batch season 1 better?
Bad Batch.
That is a great question, and
I would say Bad Batch.
Yeah,
I agree with Mike, because I was thinking about it today. Because I was thinking, like, I remember, sort of the consensus after Bad Batch was that some aspects of the show were really underwhelming, and that show obviously paced very differently than Boba Fett, but like a similar sort of sentiment of Boba Fett, where it's like that this show is a mixed bag. And I was just thinking, like, there were so many elements in Bad Batch season 1 that did really pay off, like toward, like, especially in regards to like the journey away and then back to Camino, and obviously there's gonna be more seasons of that show, and there might not be more seasons of Boba Fett, but yeah, I was just curious about that.
Yeah, no, I
Bad Batch.
I think Bad Batch is better. Like Austin just said it in the chat, it's just structured better. Like, the show knows what it wants to be. It knows what it is, right. Even though they have at least 1,000 cameo over the weeks, but it's still just like that show knows what the core of it is, and it doesn't really fade away from that. Besides maybe one episode. But yeah,
with Hera,
that's the exactly. That's pretty much the stream. Just want to say massive thank you to everyone who tuned in, liked the stream, has chatted with us. We've appreciated answering all the questions. Obviously, massive thank you to our lovely special guest Parks. He's done this twice for us this season. This has been our first time really chatting with him, and we've absolutely loved getting to know Parks. He's an awesome guy. He'll definitely be back on sometime soon in the future. But yeah, we really enjoyed doing this live, and I'm sure a lot of people listen to this back. So thank you for listening. But yeah, that's pretty much the episode. That's all I have to say. But actually, also, this has been quite the journey for me and Mike. This whole Boba Fett review series of ours. So obviously, thank you to Mike for coming on as co-host. Appreciate him a lot. He brings so much to the show. But yeah, thanks to everyone who's listened to all 7 podcasts of this. It's been loads of fun to do, and yeah, even though the series wasn't an absolute banger, it was just loads of fun to cover and chat about it. So yeah, Mike.
Yeah, we Ari, to piggyback off you, we started wanting to podcast and stuff, or you brought me onto your podcast as co-host, and we wanted to discuss, things about Star Wars and stuff. And it's like, oh, well, we got to cover Book of Boba Fett, right? Yeah. So we didn't know how this was going to play out, but we, even though we were both busy, we're like, no, we gotta fix all this. We got to fix schedule so we can start covering the series together. And it's been literally quite the journey. And I appreciate all the support that y'all guys have thrown. Halfway through the show, we're just doing solely audio, and then we're switching to video, and also
and now we're live,
and now we're live. So that seriously, if you're listening on podcasts, join us on our YouTube. Just if you want to interact with the live chats, we're going to be doing more live streams.
Definitely,
we'll plan and listen. Book of Boba Fett may be over, but Ari and I are still going to continue podcasting. So we're still going to be doing shows and stuff, and talking about what's upcoming next for Star Wars. We got Kenobi today. The Kenobi series was given a release date. So May 25th, we're going to be podcasting till then. You might just join us then, but so you join for the weekly combos. I think they'll be fun,
definitely.
But we're going to be covering Kenobi, Bad Batch, all of it. like I said, Boba Fett may be over, and oh yeah, Cassian this year, and
Yeah.
also what else? Maybe Mando season 3. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
it's
much to
quite the
cover.
year. So
Yeah.
join us if you enjoyed our coverage of Book of Boba Fett, or even if you didn't agree with us, but you enjoyed the coverage that we did. Join us. Trust me, it's gonna.
Yeah, no, we're just down for a conversation with anyone.
Right.
Agree or disagree. We just, both of us just love talking Star Wars. Before we wrap up, just so we don't forget, Parks, would you like to plug any of your stuff in there?
Yes, absolutely. You can find me first and foremost on YouTube as ArTorr. It's spelled exactly as you see it here on the stream, but if you're listening, that's ARTORR. I do video essays and documentary style videos on all kinds of films, movies. Well, that's the same. That's redundant. Movies, shows, and games.
Films and movies.
I do that too often. I'm like, films and movies. They're different. But no, yeah, all kinds of media. I have videos on Star Wars media like the Clone Wars, Rebels, Bad Batch, so most of the animated stuff. At some point in the next few months, I'll be doing a video on Mandalorian. And I don't upload very often, so it is important for me to say this, but I actually do have a new video coming out this Monday. So please go support that. Even it's about Mass Effect 2. If you've never played the Mass Effect games, it would still mean a lot to me if you just click on it, watch the first few seconds, hit the like button. All that counts as engagement, and that gets the video spread out there. Very important for a channel of my size that doesn't upload very videos very often. So I'd really appreciate that. You can also follow me on Twitter at Parks Harmon. On Instagram is Parks Harmon as well. You can follow me on twitch.tv/ArTorr for live streams. Star Wars Go to Public, if anyone plays that, has an expansion coming out next week, and I'll be doing streams for that. Yeah, and also, sorry, podcasters, but or audio listeners, but I just want to show my shirt here. I've been meaning to talk about it. It's the Max Rebo band, and it says "We're on a mission from Jabba." So that's a Blues Brothers reference.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, there we go. And we don't know what happened to Max Rebo, so clearly that has to be explained in Boba season 2.
I was about to ask you, do you think he's alive? Do you think he's dead?
He's alive. He's out
alive.
there.
Gotta be.
He's alive.
He's alive. You know who's not alive? Cad Bane, but we'll talk about that another time. All right. As Ari said, though, we had Rip Max Rebo. Yes.
No, he's still alive. Hang on.
Davey, we're going to have to ban Davey. I know he's your friend, Parks, but...
no, Davey.
No, we love
Sorry,
Davey. We love Davey.
Yeah, audio listeners, give us a review on Apple Podcasts. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Spotify, rate us, subscribe. I don't even know how Spotify works, but because I don't have Spotify, I'm more of an Apple Music guy. But still,
I think you can rate now.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can rate, right? So yeah, Spotify, rate us, please. We're trying to. By the way, I just want to say a footnote. We thought that our audio listeners were going to go decrease significantly just because we started doing video, focusing on video too, or promoting that more. It's consistent throughout, and if anything, it's grown a little too. So it's kind of fascinating to see all these viewers on the YouTube and still having a consistent follower base on these audio platforms. So again, thank you all for traveling with us throughout the really roller coaster that was Book of Boba Fett. And whether you liked the series or didn't, it's just been, as Ari said, fun conversation. Kind of cool to see the fans who weren't enjoying the series and then enjoy the Mando spin, and then see their reaction to the finale, and vice versa to all those people that were enjoying up to the Mando stuff and then see their reaction to the finale, because it's honestly been literally a mixed reaction. And I see a lot of people happy with it, saying it was the best thing ever, and some other people being like, this was cringe, nothing but cringe. So again, hopefully we did our job in investing you in the conversation, not just having you experience it. But shout
out to Davey once again.
Shout out Davey. We are not banning Davey today. You know why we're not
Davey? Fine, I won't.
but to our audio listeners, do you know why we're not banning Davey? He just he rated us on Spotify with 5 stars. So if you don't want to be banned, do the same.
Thanks for chatting, Davey.
Thank you, Davey. All right. Do we have any announcements, Ari? Is that it?
We probably do, but I've just forgotten. But well, I mean, no, as you said, we'll still be doing weekly shows. So you can listen to me and Mike always. Parks will be back on. We're going to do a proper podcast episode where we talk to him about all his videos and cool stuff coming out sometime soon. So yeah, look forward to that, and just look forward to more podcasts.
Yeah, Ari, where can people find you if they want to chat with you in the meantime?
For sure. Find me on Instagram at Star Wars_exchange or Twitter at the SW Exchange.
dope. And as you can always find me _Star Wars on Twitter. And if you really want to see people yell at me for my takes on Book of Boba Fett, check out my Instagram at _Star Wars. Until then, and I'll see y'all in the comments and whatnot. But like we say, Star Wars is a forever thing, and we're here to talk about it as long as you guys are around. So join us for the journey that is Star Wars and the future of the Star Wars exchange. So yeah, thanks for listening, guys. May the Force be with you.
Cheers,
Adios.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
Adios.
Bye.